the idea that just because the United States is going to start doing this, that they're necessarily going to fall next month or next year, I think is to miss the historical record here. So, I don't necessarily like this. I'm a free markets guy. I'm a, live and let live guy, but that a free market and live and let live is not the world I live in. It's perhaps a beautiful fantasy of mine, but it's just not reality. And so I think those who are automatically dismissing the chances that the United States has to compete or become more competitive in these arenas, again, I just think the odds aren't as bad as many people think that they are.
Well, first of all, yes, I wholeheartedly agree. Just as an aside, before I give the rest of the answer, if you could just tell me,
Yeah.
I've seen like 200 billion flying around as the figure that's coming out of this. But from what I understand, and this is where I think it's very, very, very clever, and in fact, it speaks to what I was describing as using financial fartcraft to prepare for a World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
They're not putting 200 billion in. I think it's a tiny fraction of that they're putting in, but they can generate 200 billion, if I'm correct, right?
That's exactly right. And they're partnering with private capital. So
there you go.
People like me will be putting up capital. They will be matching it. And, there's a way through credit, the extension of credit, and, preferential financing that you can get financing to firms that might not otherwise get it, or that might need a longer runway than they normally would, because what they're producing is needed from a national security perspective, et cetera, et cetera. And so in other words, it's not just a typical government spending program. And by the way, the guy that's running this is a guy named Steve Feinberg. And Steve Feinberg is the founder and chairman of Cerberus, which is one of the biggest and most successful private equity firms in history. He's made billions of dollars for himself and his clients over the years. And this guy hates losing money. If you think that he has decided to ride off into the sunset of his career into a government job where they just waste money, you do not know who Steve Feinberg is. And so, it's a little different than a typical government spending program.
Sure.
Now
you don't have to sell it to me.
No, I know. I'm just for people listening. For people listening, I think this is it's not very well known right now, but I think in the next couple of years it's going to become very well known. So
Sorry, can I say that very quickly, because I wanted to just get that leverage part addressed, because this exactly speaks to what I was saying. What is GDP for? They've made a decision. GDP is for this, so that's why I'm also bullish on that. And then remember on from it.
Remember that $200 billion number. That's from a year ago. That's pre-Trump wanting to take the military budget from 1 trillion to 1.5 trillion.
Right. Okay. So even bigger.
Yeah.
But from a first, sorry, can I just do one?
Yeah, dude. We're just
from a first principles perspective, because I'm all about first principles. It's just how I think. I wanted to just come back to what you said about being willing to do it. It's not something you want to do, etc. You wouldn't want to see the government doing it, but we think. I agree that this will work. I'm maybe slightly more European in the. I like markets too. Obviously, I work for the private sector. But if you think the private sector doesn't misallocate capital, you've never worked in the private sector.
Fair enough. Touche.
Seriously, you want to see money wasted?
Absolutely.
Go to the private sector. The only difference is that we have a bankruptcy system, which traditionally wiped those people out, got rid of those companies, and replaced them with someone who was more sensible. That's the only thing separating government from the private sector. So if A, government is more efficient, that can work just as well. If B, government works out a way of having a bankruptcy system within it, that still works just as well. And C, I would say within the economy we have now, which is why we need reverse perestroika, that bankruptcy is going away. You're seeing these giant zombie firms make mistake after mistake after mistake and not be punished because they're just so big. They can get away with it. It's like, we screwed the pooch and lost $10 billion. What are you going to do? Let's just keep going. I don't want to name names specifically because I don't manage money. But I remember a certain large tech company investing an awful lot of money in the delusion that everybody wanted to get back to what was it called, Second Life, which was, trendy like 15 years ago. And absolutely, surprise, surprise, nobody was interested in having a digital avatar of themselves with a mustache. How much money was burned by that mistake, right? If that was a government department doing it, that would be all over the front pages saying they took our taxpayers' money. Well, they just took shareholders' money.
Yeah. We works another one, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm not naming names, but sorry. So I think it will work, yes. And I think you're right. China shows that there are temporal compromises you can make which combine the dynamism of the state and the dynamism of the private sector with the guidance of the state. And that's the sweet spot. That's the reverse perestroika.
Yeah.
Trump needs to aim for.
That's right. Okay. So I have a surprise question for you, but before I hit you with the surprise question, I've got to give you, I already think you're a genius. So you already know that. No, I do. I literally really do. But you have made a number of, I don't know, let's just call them predictions for lack of a better word, things that you thought that would happen in the years ahead. And, whether we start in 2016 or 19 or 22, like a lot of the stuff that you and I have been talking about is starting to come true. You were, I think, ahead of me in this stuff, but you've certainly helped me kind of develop my framework. The single best prediction, in my opinion, that you made that has started to show some hints of coming true. People aren't even going to believe this, but several years ago, you said to me, or in some format, you communicated to me that before this is all over with, letters of marque are going to come back as a real thing. The reason I bring this up is that you didn't hear, but when I was introducing you before you came on screen, in addition to the Lenin quote, I used the quote, "If you want to know the future, look to the past." Now, letters of marque, I think, were last popular 300 years ago or 200, whatever, 200 or 300 years ago. And you a couple of years ago or whenever it was mentioned that letters of marque are going to come back. And I'll be damned if 2 months ago or whenever it was, that wasn't floated as an idea with the drug boats coming from South America to the United States. So I have to give you, everybody needs to know that you made this prediction, and it isn't fully here, but it is now within the Overton window of what's allowed to be discussed.
Well, thank you so much for that. Really, it's just a logical extension of what you were just talking about with strategic capital. Because for those who don't know what they are, letters of marque are something in the US Constitution which can still be issued by Congress now, which effectively, and other countries like the UK England used them long beforehand, where you effectively legalize piracy. So some of our greatest mariners in English naval history were effectively pirates, and we said to them,
privateers, right?
And privateers, go and raid the Spanish boats for all the gold. You give 20%, 30% for the government. You get to keep the rest. What are you doing? You're incentivizing the private sector and get out there and do what your Navy isn't capable of doing. So I still think that there's a logical argument for the US to do that at some point when they just say, right, we need to interdict X, Y, or Z. Or if they start saying Russian oil, okay, anyone who can manage to seize a Russian oil tanker, you get to keep half the cargo. Or you get to keep half the profits when it's sold. Okay, does it have downsides? Yeah, absolutely. Are there risks involved with that? No brainer. But if you need to get something done geopolitically when you don't have the state capacity to do it, but the private sector could more efficiently motivate itself and militarize itself to a degree and get out there, why wouldn't you do that? So yeah, I would be very surprised if in years ahead, particularly as America realizes it needs to be a naval power again, which it's really, really been ignoring for far too long. Like your merchant marine is just like you can count a number of ships on the fingers of one hand. China's got thousands of merchant marine vessels, which are now, as I've also flagged in the past, capable of being militarized. You can put drones in shipping containers, and then when they sail into your port, you think you're getting a widescreen TV,